I do want to share my what I have right now is a book from Senator Tim Scott. I'm going to hold this up for you guys, and you can put that first asset up. This is the book that he just recently released. He's talking about this on his Facebook. It's called One Nation, Always Under God. I have a lot of reads. I decided to pick this one up because of my history with Senator Tim Scott. Not that I'm probably someone that he knows, but I had one run-in with him that shaped the way I thought about senators here in my own state in South Carolina. And he basically, we met him at my husband and I met him at a military event because my husband was in the military, he's a nuclear instructor. And but he was also a youth pastor, and we both serve in ministry together. We both are ordained ministers as well. And so we were assisting this lady who another friend was assisting her first, but then he needed major assistance because this lady was paralyzed from the waist down and her Medicaid wasn't working. I don't know what South Carolina was doing in the term in that during that day and age, where this woman who desperately needed it couldn't get the services she needed. And it was basically she was paralyzed from the waist down. She needed help like washing and all this stuff that you would normally be able to do if you weren't in her position. And so we brought in our church. A lot of them came in periodically to assist with throughout the week to assist with washing her clothes, food, getting her groceries, and all her care, helping her get dressed, all the stuff that she can't do on her own. I'm not going to go into too many details, but she needed major assistance. A home healthcare nurse would have been like amazing. And she had one, but I think the company was just horrible and not showing up. So anyways, when we were at this event, we saw Senator Tim Scott, and we had at this time been trying to get her Medicaid for like months, and nothing was going through for some reason. And this lady didn't have any family members with her to assist. So we became her family. And so my husband saw Senator Tim Scott. He was speaking, he prayed, and then when he got off stage, he went up to him, even though Senator Tim Scott was surrounded by security and his assistants there. And he basically approached him and started immediately saying, like, we need your assistance. We need your help. There's a lady, da, 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 da. I was nervous with my husband because Senator Tim Scott was surrounded by security and he has an assistant in front of him. But Senator Tim Scott literally walked up and said, wait, guys, just let me hear what he has to say. And my husband shared with him, the woman we were helping out. And then he said to his assistant, take down his name, his number. We're going to give you a call and we're going to help this lady. And he did not. I mean, he did. He did not lie is what I was going to say. Everything worked out. Within a week, this lady had every single thing we needed, every single thing we asked for. And so from that moment on, I gained a respect for him. I knew he was a man of faith as well, because he always had that in his rhetoric and he was unapologetic about that. So I was really happy that we had a senator, a senator who, believed in God and didn't sugarcoat it for anyone. But the fact that he, as a senator, also like took our case seriously, honored his word, and did that like as soon as he could possibly do it, speaks volumes. And so this is his new book right here. It's a different approach than you would typically get from a politician. It is like literally more about men and women of faith in politics and how they use their faith help propel them to make different changes. And again, if you look over history, you'll see that all of our history, you'll see that most abolitionist movements are started by Christians. It's insane. I'm very proud of that because I'm a Christian and I love Jesus. But yeah, so his book is very inspiring, not too much to read. You guys can check this out on my Amazon storefront as well. I believe it is still currently marked down. So if you want to grab it, you can. But yeah, the book is great. Okay, so first one we're going to talk about, we're going to bring up, I'm going to first introduce you guys, to my guest today, because he's going to help me break down some of these topics. Okay, he has a really great point of view on different things. He's very well educated. He has a background in economy, and he also is my producer as well, and he has his own podcast as well. So Mike Glauber, thank you so much for being with me today to break down some of these topics. I love having you with me because you just come from a different perspective and add so much to the table.
Thank you. Always happy to join, and again, thank you for having me.
Yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit about you before we get started?
Well, I got my start in this industry. Originally, I worked for Mike Lindell over at Lindell TV a little after they launched that. I worked behind the scenes there, both as a producer and cutting clips from all their shows, all their primary shows from the Lindell Report, Diamond and Silk, when they brought on Bannon, all of Brandon House's programming, Alex Newman, variety of other people that were there at the network for a while. I probably worked on one show or another, for any given length of time. I ended up there working as one of Lou Dobbs' producers. I did a lot of work with Emerald Robinson. And then I came over to Patriot TV when General Flynn started that up. I worked there for about a year, a little longer. And then we launched the network that you see here now, Ex America News. So that's what I've done. I've been in this field for a while, primarily as a producer. And then I've co-hosted The Insurrection with Derek Evans for a couple years now. Our focus has been a lot of whistleblowers, controversies, things like that. That's what we like to dig our teeth into. It's just a daily podcast from 10 a.m. to 10 a.m. to 11 Central, 11 to noon Eastern, Monday through Friday, right here on Ex America News.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Now, first I want to talk about Sydney Sweeney ad. I think we have like an asset you can put up for her.
Yes.
This has been going a little wild between both spaces, conservatives and non-conservatives alike, where I've seen a lot of posts on social media where the non-conservatives are saying that this is a racist ad because she says genes, she has really good genes, it's about eugenics. And then you have, the right, conservatives like us who are saying like it's not about race, etc. And she has good genes, you should be proud of that. All of us can say we have good genes, we can't make everything about race, etc. I want to hear your take, and then I'm gonna share my take on this as well. But what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I agree. I think this is something that got way overblown, way too much attention, and then brought out the worst on both sides. Like, this is clearly just supposed to be a play on the word genes, genes and genes. And it wasn't. I really don't think that they intended this to be some giant controversy. Now, I do think that they were trying to get away from some of the woke advertising we saw before. Like, people keep bringing up the point, Calvin Klein, the big ad that everybody talked about a few years ago with the two morbidly obese people, the guy and the girl. The guy is the one wearing the bra in the ad, by the way. But this is kind of like, it's a return to like what's normal. The other thing that they wanted to do is be aspirational again, instead of saying, oh, we're healthy at all sizes or whatever. Like, people should aspire to be fit, to be attractive, and other things. Like, I don't think they wanted half this controversy, but I think you saw this meltdown with people on the left saying this is like eugenics, or Sydney Sweeney's a fascist. Basically turning this into something it was never intended to be. But then that also brought out the worst on the right, some of these other people that are just race baiters. And again, it doesn't matter which side that's coming from. I think it's bad when it's Reverend Al Sharpton trying to stir things up. I also think it's bad when it's Nick Fuentes or whoever else on our side.
Oh, Nick Fuentes, Lord.
Yeah.
Sorry.
One of my favorite punching bags.
Yeah, Nick Fuentes is a very interesting character. I'll digress there. So is Al Sharpton as well. So yeah. I totally agree with you. I think I see the change. So, when I was on your podcast, I shared this because this is 100% what I believe. And this is what I've seen coming from a background of being in the church and understanding the power of leadership. When you look at the fact that we have, whoever's in that White House, I'll say it like this plainly, whoever's in that White House governing that seat, with their policies, it shapes culture. It shapes every single, it trickles down from leadership. So when we were under Biden, that stuff was popping up like crazy. Like you said, men wearing women's bras and all this stuff. And again, and of course, the conservatives had a lot to say. We talked on that too. We didn't let those things slide. And, we also mentioned those things as well. And also, more plus size ladies. And I saw Candace Owens mentioning some stuff like that. I don't typically watch TV like that. We have one TV in our house and we don't have no cable. I just don't watch TV. So I'm more of a reader. I like to read and I like to do stuff and I'm always working. So whether it's with my babies, with church, etc. Anyways. Okay. So when I see this stuff, it's popping up on my feed a lot, which is why I know about it. But anyways, now we're at this place where Donald Trump is the leader. I'm very proud of him. And I'm not ashamed to say that. I'm very proud that he's the leader because he rolled back a lot of stuff that we as Christians and conservatives believe in and will we stand in. It holds our foundation intact and our values intact. And we saw him, come against this gender of males and female sports, come against the
gender affirming care and some.
Yeah,
Yeah.
gender affirming care. I'm going to say mutilization of children because you know how they do. They like to change the wording of stuff because it's very
Yep.
powerful to change the wording. It gives you a different perspective when you say that wording in a way that it is not, you know, being explicitly said, if that makes sense. It is mutilization of children. So all of these things are being, rolled back. Trump is using his executive authority, his in every sense of that, to do exactly what he said he would do, which is why we voted him in. And we see that rollback taking place. And so now you see these advertising companies doing the same thing. They're following suit, right? Whole change up taking place. But with that also being said, because before I'm conservative, before I'm black, before I'm any of these things, I am a woman of God. And that stands before any other thing, any other label society could put on me. And so this is where my foundation lies. So yeah, I'm happy that we don't have a man and a woman's brawl, etc., happening. And it's still taking place. It's just not as prevalent as before, not all over the place, right? But this thing blowing out of proportion to and on the right, because I would say that I represent the right because I vote right, like a Republican. Us addressing the issue, saying it's not about race or whatever. I think we could leave it there. We don't have to come and tie in and kind of drag this story out by saying, oh, Beyonce did this and she did this. It's just like, why continue to perpetuate this whole scenario, this whole case, when in fact, for me as a Christian conservative, I wouldn't want my kid looking up to Sydney Sweeney nor Beyonce because they don't represent the standard that God has set for us in terms of our femininity and our conservatism and the ability to track a man. So like this thing is saying like you got to be this sexy whatever to do that, and every ad does that. They try to make it look like your looks
Yeah.
have to be this certain way. My issue is with this is that why do you need somebody you probably don't even know to validate who you are based on skin color, lips, butt, any of those things? Somebody you
Yeah.
hardly even know, to say that you're accepted and you're enough, and if you're not this skin tone or whatever, you're not. That doesn't come from a man. That comes from God. So for me, I'm like, even though I'm on the conservative side, I'm on the right side, I still don't agree with them wholly on that either. Because again, my ground, what I'm standing on, what I'm saying is that, like I wouldn't watch this ad or whatever. I mean, I'm not saying that she's ugly or anything. She's beautiful. She's beautiful. Cindy Sweeney's beautiful. Um, but she would not be a standard for me or somebody I would want my child to watch to get
Yeah.
inspired to buy some jeans. You know?
Yeah. I really agree with what you're saying because I think the way I look at it is like the initial response, the initial pushback when these moonbats are losing their mind, pretending this is like somehow the Fourth Reich, and you're erasing anybody of color because of one ad. Which again, that's clearly not the case. It's one ad, one time with one well-known model and actress. They obviously hired her because she's beautiful. The campaign is what it is, whether people like it or not. But the initial pushback of just telling these morons they don't know what they're talking about, that's clear. That's where it should have ended. The rest of this stuff now,
Yeah, should
it,
ended.
yeah, yeah, just tell these people again, we're going back to normalcy. We're not going to glorify a lot of this degeneracy anymore. The American people as a whole are sick of that. Even a majority, well, not quite a majority, but around 40% of Democrats are tired of having everything's got to be, not just a LGBTQ furries, whatever, where we've got to normalize this stuff. Just going back to what's normal, what's worked for centuries. And of course, people that appear in ads are going to be very attractive because the company wants to affiliate themselves with that.
Yeah.
Again, if they want to sell the product, they want, this is an ad really more geared towards women than men at the end of the day. They want people to envision themselves as, well, if I go buy American Eagle, then I can look like that. If I push myself, I do this, I do that, I can get in shape, I can wear these clothes and I can be attractive. You're always going to have that in a normal. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is normal. It's been normal for most of human history. They don't put down, you don't normally see ads with 500-pound land whales in them because everybody's going to run away from that brand.
Yeah, and I also started thinking through this as well. When we talk about the root of things and how things begin to start and unfold. So I was watching this podcast. I cannot remember the lady's name, but I love what she was breaking down marriage, for example. And I'm going to tie this back into what we are talking about, the Sydney Sweeney ad. So when she talked about marriage and went to the root, she said that, this whole thing started with same-sex marriage and stuff. We have to go back to the root to kind of understand what took place and what unfolded. So first we have this no marriage or no fault divorce law that took place, right? And then so this is basically saying, like, if you just because you're incompatible, you can get a divorce, negating the fact that there is severe consequences with that, especially if you got children. Okay, because sometimes what happens is people don't know how to necessarily manage. I mean, if you're already getting divorced because you're simply incompatible, um, you can basically say, well, if I don't feel this, I don't feel that, then it's okay for me to do this and that and that and that, and regardless of the consequences. But what happened, and when we had that whole, no fault divorce, and people just started getting divorced willy nilly, you see this effect on children where they either from one parent there's a neglect because of one parent is trying to start a new family. It was just sad if that takes place. You see it still affects them. It's still, even if the two parents are trying to do a really good job, there's still some type of effect that takes place there, because it's more than just some written law thing. This is a spiritual thing. And so when we see that take place, the woman in this video, she said that us moving to this place of same-sex marriage where it's just, I feel that this person is for me, I feel right, is didn't necessarily came from people that were homosexuals. It started with the heterosexuals, because we couldn't get this right. We allowed this took root there, because now you got a lot of children that are broken and I'm trying to find a way to mend that brokenness. And if they're not turning to Jesus or anything like that, to be recovered from that and make a sound decision on and understanding the value of marriage and what it does for society, and how you were created, etc., you just do whatever you feel, because you saw your parents do whatever they feel. So if I feel like this person, I want to be with this person even if they're same sex, then I'm gonna just go with that. And then you see this whole revolution take place. Again, psychological thing takes place. It's like with the Sydney Sweeney thing, I think we have to be careful if we're here on the right as well, because it's like this is a sexual thing. The spirit of perversion doesn't have a boundary at all. So this is how I see things. They don't have a boundary. And so when we talk about this root of like a woman trying to be sexy or whatever, and showing all these things, and you're okay with it because it's like woman empowerment always, etc., that is still an open door for other things to take place. If we're accepting that into the society right now, don't you think, just how we allow a little bit, we open up the door a little bit for LGBTQ and they wanted more and more and more and more, right? This is going to be the same thing on the right. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
we're turning back to women, feminism, and yes, yeah, it's all great. But it's like, if we can't get this part right either, this is still the same thing. This is still perversion.
Yeah.
This is still like, you're still there. So I'm gonna
We
digress there, because
You made a
yeah,
really good
sorry.
point I want to hammer down on when you talked about no fault divorce. And the people's attitude today, now that they have a little bump in the road, there's not even they don't even try to resolve things. People just run away. Whereas it used to be a marriage supposed to be a contract. It was sacred. It was something that meant something. And I
Yes,
totally
a vow.
understand, like, yeah, that if somebody becomes abusive or cheating or, other things that are harming you or harming other family members, you know, there should still be an effort to try to fix things. But I understand divorce in those kind of situations, something can get to where it's unresolvable. But
Yeah.
the problem today is people walk away so quickly. And I know numerous people like that, and several that have come to regret it later. That instead of trying to save their marriage, they got in an argument or a disagreement about something, and instead of making any effort to try to fix the situation, again, something that to me doesn't seem like a major problem, instead they just run away. And then that's it. Marriage is dissolved. Now the kids have a broken home. Everything's going to be difficult for them going forward. We already know how the statistics bear out there. But there does need to be like a real effort to save things. Sometimes maybe that's not the case. But again, I think more often than not, especially if you're married with kids and all that, and there hasn't been instances of cheating or other things that are harder to get past, or abuse, then making a reasonable effort, I think most people will come to a conclusion that they should stay together, especially for the sake of their kids.
Yeah. And for me, it's just the sake of your honoring your vows, your covenant before the Lord. Like, he
Yeah.
wants godly marriages. He created the system. He's the person, he's the manufacturer of it. And so it should be, in my opinion, and this is biblical, it should be done his way. if we want it to be successful. He's the creator of it. You can't necessarily like buy a car and then try to put pieces together that don't match what the manufacturer state for it, right? You need to look at the manual. You need to see how this thing works. So, he's a creator of it. He made it. And so I think we have to come back to that foundation, those values. But yeah, we have to be careful, I feel, on the right, like not to play into that, much more than we already have, because I've seen a lot of crazy stuff. It might not, and I don't know if all of it is from people that are on the right. It could be just a stirring of the pot, to make it seem like they're pushing for white supremacy or whatever, which
I'm sure there's some of that. I'm sure there's some agitators pretending to be on our side, because that's always what happens too. They want to embed that any chance they can. Right. But yeah, there's bad actors on both sides, and we just need to stop feeding into it.
Now, to transition here, you mentioned the Hunter Biden story. So Hunter Biden has been in the news, a lot. In my podcast last week, I chatted a little bit. We talked a bit about Hunter Biden's laptop and the USB and Laura Loomer and all that with Tucker Carlson.
Yeah.
But you have some new reporting on this. So I'm gonna let you lead this up.
Oh yeah, we got some breaking news. Hunter Biden is now working as the director of development for LA homelessness prevention and a tenants' rights group. He'll probably do pretty good with the tenants' rights, since he's owed back rent on the house he had outside LA, was fighting that guy in court, and then the LA fire came and it burned up all his precious artwork. So there's an insurance fraud case inbound on him too, since apparently he thinks that was like $100 million worth of snot paintings. But homelessness prevention, like what this guy's gone from being a Ukrainian energy expert to a homelessness expert. I mean, I have a feeling the only homelessness this is going to prevent is his own. But then again, maybe he'll be out there advocating for crack dealers and whoever else he can help financially rehabilitate the prostitution rings in LA. But I mean, again, like, this is just nepotism. Was Hunter Biden like known for being like a homeless advocate before? I mean, I know the guy's allegedly an attorney, but I always just thought this guy was a Ukrainian energy expert and like documentary filmmaker, since he filmed his own life 24/7, as we learned from the Hunter Biden laptop. I don't want to get into any of that now, but no, I mean, it's ridiculous.
Now, if there's some place that this could take place, it would be California under new Governor Newsom. Remember, we have so many ties right now with money laundering there, and not that anything has been necessarily confirmed, but there's missing money with the fire aid. There is his incompetence with the fires that took place. You had Trump that went in the beginning of this year and did major work with cleaning up debris and everything like that. Within 35 days, had like 9,000 homes already cleaned up from debris and all that, which was great. And now we're stalled at this place where these people need insurance coverage, and they also need permits to rebuild. And then once you get, you have the permit to rebuild, let's say you have that and you're already rebuilt, there still has to be a confirmation that that house is livable once it is rebuilt. But we see a stall in this area with just Governor Newsom running it. Which, in my opinion, I'm like, why are you on social media right now trolling Trump and comment every single day? And I get it, he's trying to run for president, but I'm like, solve right now what you have in your hands as governor. Solve that first, and then let's see if you're competent in that. Then we can kind of talk about president, But it's like, you haven't shown us anything, and then the whole fire rate thing and all this. So maybe I hope it's innocent that they have him doing this, and maybe it's a recovery thing where he has a heart for this. I don't know. Hunter Biden, so I'm referring to.
Yeah.
But it could also be, unfortunately, it could also be a way for money laundering to continue.
Yeah.
With this new effort of homelessness. So I think it's warrant to watch and see.
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to compete with the $89,000 a month he was getting from Burisma. I just hope that Hunter Biden can maintain his current lifestyle with whatever it is they're paying him now. But, Adam Carolla has done a really good job highlighting all the problems with the cleanup effort and after the fire, that it's basically been non-existent, that he's been doing weekly updates on this, going down with Dr. Drew and other people that live out there in the Hollywood Hills around LA, and just pointing out that zero has been done, and now all these burned structures, they're now being occupied by homeless people. He pointed out another story where
that's another issue.
Yeah, where a family, they've had multiple issues now with this homeless encampment that popped up next to their house. I guess several houses were burned in a row, and then theirs was somehow spared. And now they've had multiple family members assaulted by homeless people just going to and from their house. And the police won't do anything about it. They won't press charges. They won't do anything. They want to de-escalate the situation. And it's turned what was a nice area to just a wasteland. I mean, it looks apocalyptic there still. I guess they're going with the Lahaina plan from Hawaii and just hope the problem goes away on its own.
That's wow. You know, and speaking of Governor Newsom, you know, I see this repost from him where he said, if Texas or other states move to distort their maps for obvious partisan gain, California is prepared to respond, not to escalate, but to protect what's right and just. The future of this country hinges on what we do in moments like this. Seriously?
Oh, I know.
Like, let's talk about this redistricting, you know, in the state of Texas and why this is taking place. So first off, you know, we go back to COVID, right? 2020. I would say 2020, 2023, 2024. We'll say that range, 2020 to 2024. You had a lot of people that migrated to Texas, to Florida, to these other, you know, states. Why? Because of the poor policing of the states that they were in, and also the high rent costs and high taxes they had to pay alongside that. So when COVID hit, and most businesses at this time had to basically immediately go remote after, you know, recovering from COVID, immediately had to do that. So then you had people that were migrating to these different places because they're like in their head, and again, I like to mention that this is what the CBO doesn't take account: people's behavior when it comes to policies and stuff like that. That's being, you know, it can't determine that. So anyways, when you have this migration taking place, people in their mind are thinking, well, if I can work remote, why would I stay in a state where I'm paying extreme amount of rent when I could move to Texas, one of these other states like this, and then continue to work remote, right? And be able to pay my bills. And that's what you saw. You saw this big migration into these different states. So this right here does warrant us to look at a way, you know, for redistricting. That is one thing that warrants that. They're poor policing. And also, you know, the COVID-19 kind of stirred that pot and revealed the policies for what they were.
Mm-hmm.
And also, you know, you have this horrible thing of defunding the police in those states where there's a lot less protection. So people are migrating now there. And that's not the only reason, but we have to look at like the full scope of how we even got to this place where we're redistricting now, and Republicans are wanting to do that. And I know that for years it's been, let's do a 10 where we do 10-year, you know, redistricting. That's not constitutional. You don't have to do 10 years. So them doing mid-decade is still constitutional. So you know, look at the map and revitalize this stuff.
Well, you know, like you pointed out, there are a number of legitimate reasons to do redistricting between the census, and one major reason is all the open borders. During the 4 years of Biden, that we brought in 20 to 30 million illegal aliens. That's drastically changed the makeup of a lot of communities. But for the Democrats to pretend now that this is something new in Texas is just farcical. So the headline that I've got up there now is Democrats defend democracy by ditching it. And this has been a common practice to pretend you're doing one thing while doing another. There is a democratic process in Texas for this redistricting. They can make their case against this bill. They're not going to win. But instead, they chose to run away and exploit this rule on quorum. Now they're potentially paying the price for it now that criminal charges have been issued. They just had a judge confirm that they can take away seats if they don't return by, I think it's the end of this weekend. The judge gave them like 48 hours. And they potentially violated other Texas laws by accepting bribes, because they were paid by flights, the hotels, the food, everything else they've been given in Chicago and New York and DC and everywhere else they've gone off to run to the cameras. But the cost of all that is it's like any other cash bribe. It'd be like if I, instead of giving you $10,000 to do something, if I gave you, I don't know, tickets for something or a gold bar or whatever, it would still be bribery. So there's rules about this. Beto's in the crosshairs too, because of his super PAC supplied all this. But the bigger picture is this, so this has been an ongoing problem with redistricting. And let me pull up our next slide here. Massachusetts threatens to redistrict to punish Texas. The problem is they have no GOP majority districts. So even though 39% of their state voted for President Trump in the last election, it's so gerrymandered, the GOP holds 0 House seats in the entire state. So even though 39% of them vote Republican, they've twisted the districts in such a way that they've diluted the Republican vote in areas where it's concentrated to ensure that they still have Democrat representation. The same thing is true in the bulk of Chicago, New York. I mean, this is the thing, this redistricting that Texas is doing reflects their vote, reflects their population changes. It isn't just being done out of meanness. A lot of these are districts that were set up, so the one they keep bringing up is the Austin, San Antonio district. They're combining that into one, and that's a lot of their blue vote in Texas is all concentrated in that area. Before they had it split so that these two cities were essentially overriding the vote of the surrounding area around them. When you see that map with the little squiggly line that's connecting it to San Antonio, that isn't because they want to just cut in and add that district. Nobody lives outside of it. It's a desert. It's a guy living out in the sand with a goat tied to a tree and a skull. That's there's nobody out there. So the district was drawn around the people that have the same political philosophy, same views, but that instead of them getting 2 seats now, they're going to get 1. So instead of splitting in a way that was dishonest, where they're diluting the vote around them and taking control, kind of like Chicago does with all of Illinois, they're now going to get their own representation that represents their political views, but the rest of Texas, they're not going to have to worry about their vote being diluted. And then they're eliminating some of these special districts in Dallas and Houston, other major cities in Texas that, again, were split in a way to give the Democrats extra representation previously. Now it'll more accurately reflect the people that live in the area. But because this fight's been stirred up in New York, California, Massachusetts, and other states have threatened to do this to remove Republican seats. Now Texas is jumping in. We're talking about it here in Ohio because there's special districts here where I live that give Democrats extra seats that are undue. So, I mean, I think that this is something that's been going on for a while. Republicans haven't really been in this fight. They always try to play nice. But now we have people in leadership that are like, you know what? If you guys are going to play this game, we're going to play it too. We're going to fight fire with fire until you guys learn your lesson. And that's just the way it's going to be.
Isn't it a saying for the Democrats? I believe it's more so on them. It's like accuse the other side of what you're doing. It's like a tactic. It's like, oh, wow, they've gerrymandered. They've done this to get where they are right now. And now, we are seeing some pushback from the Republicans, and for good reason. It's like you have this mass migration and also new law and legislation about illegal immigrants. When it comes to this redistricting, that it warrants that.
Yeah. Well, and there is another side to this story that's also coming up. And this is, I think, the Democrats' other big concern, big fear right now, is that Trump is pushing to eliminate these race-based districts that have been created. Really, a lot of this goes now. Gerrymandering is something that's gone on forever. So when some of these pundits on the left are pointing that out, they are telling the truth. But like where this went into hyperdrive is following the civil rights bills or civil rights changes in the 60s, the 64 and 68 changes to the Voting Rights Act. So. And again, I think this is something like affirmative action early on. It had a place. It had a justification because we wanted to integrate everybody equally into society as we're removing the actual institutional racism where things were written into law that were, against, blacks, Hispanics, Asians, and other people, where there were legal protections for whites. So as those things were being done away with, and we actually enforced our Constitution that all men are created equal and should have equal protection under the law, I think there was a place for this kind of stuff temporarily. But the problem is now it's being abused, that we still have race-based districts in every major city, and these aren't now really being used to represent those groups by and large. Instead, what they're being used for is to secure Democrat seats perpetually. Some of these districts that are formed, originally for racial reasons, now that doesn't even apply to that district anymore. That there's been massive changes with who lives there, but they're still holding on to them and using this because it gives them a political advantage. Again, if we're going to have equal protection under the law, equal treatment under the law, that needs to be both directions all the time, no matter what. That we all are treated the same. We should not have race-based districts, in my opinion, in Trump's plan there. And then also, sorry, I guess I pulled the wrong slide for this and been talking about that the whole time. But the other thing that Trump's doing that has the Democrats scared is redoing the census, because the 2020 census was extremely corrupt on multiple levels. Blue states were overcompensated and given extra representation, even though they didn't have the population to support it. And red states were robbed of representation, like Texas. Florida's, I think, due 2 reps. Texas was due multiple reps that they didn't get. And instead, they stayed in California and New York. Those were the big culprits, Chicago. And then we did have one. Ohio got an extra rep they didn't deserve. But there's always one. They always throw one in that goes the other way, even though the bulk of the fraud is a different direction. But Trump's argument before was illegal aliens should not be counted in the census. Unfortunately, that was struck down in court, because we do need that changed either through the courts or through the legislature. But now he's taking the case to the Supreme Court. If this happens, this will be absolutely detrimental to Democrats. I've heard different estimates from different people, but this will probably remove somewhere around 40 to 45 House seats that the Democrats are controlling right now because of sanctuary cities, places like LA, where you may have as many as 7 million illegal aliens in that metro area, providing them upwards of 10 additional seats that they should not have. Because, Justin, well, I guess they're not all in California. I think that's throughout the whole state. Or sorry, they're not all in LA. I think that's throughout the whole state. Sorry, I don't have my notes in front of me right now. But that's just from illegal aliens staying within their state. They're getting extra representatives and extra electoral votes, undue power. And illegal immigration in sanctuary states, like, this is a perverse incentive. It incentivizes these states to take in as many illegals as they can, because then they're going to get more power at the federal level. Yeah. So we have to end this.
They're using the power. And my issue is this, like, if your aim is going to be, let's go for the legal immigrants so we can stay in power, provide them with everything that they need, right? Because you knew that Trump was going to come in, and you knew his stance. What I see a lot, just specifically with Biden, is the setup, and even Obama too, the setup for the next president. A lot of the policies I'm seeing from Trump, for example, are like, we got a sovereign wealth fund. We have these tariffs things tariffs now transforming things. We have a ballroom that's going to be built not by taxpayer, money, government spending. It's going to be by Trump's own pocket and his private donors, right? He can do whatever he wants to do with his money, but he's focusing that on his job as president, which involves a lot of hosting and diplomatic and foreign negotiations. Okay, so there's going to be a lot of hosting there to have a great designated place that represents our country well. I think that's, and you didn't have to pay for it as an American citizen. I do it.
Yeah.
But he's doing all this stuff. This is setting us up past Donald Trump's presidency. Everything he's doing thus far within the first 6-7 months of his presidency. We saw with Biden is like this open door policy. You bring in all these people, knowing that the next president is strictly against that and going to be harder on them. Why didn't you set up things in play for them to have the ability to get pushed through the system, get vetted, etc., and be able to to be here? That would make the Democrat party look even better if you had a system behind your open door policy. But now we're seeing these people, and with some of them are horrible criminals. Okay, that's just what it is. Some of them are not. Some of them are criminals. They came over here legally, but some of them have like they're cartel members, and it's horrible. They're human sex traffickers, which is horrible. But it's like, you know what I mean? If you're going to do that, have a system for this country that not only makes your party and the power of your party makes your party stay in power, but a system that protects the American people that are your constituents and your responsibility as a president. But and also these people that you're saying, hey, come on in, give them what they need to be here, vet them so that we're protected too. Like, if I think if we had that, but I feel like what happened was, and I know, yeah, President Trump calls him Sleepy Joe Biden and all this stuff, but if he had people in this air, like Donald Trump has a lot of advisors around him, of course he makes the final decision, okay, and all of them attribute a lot of the success they have, even though they're the ones sent to do the work, to Trump, because at the end of the day he makes the final decision. But if he had people, Biden had people around him that were, saying these things like, hey, if you're gonna do this open door policy, let's have a system. Let's like work in a system, whatever, that is a
Yeah.
really good vetting system that helps them to get legal. So that way if we want to stay in power, they saw the benefit of what we did during our administration. Right. Instead, it seemed more like our goal is just to stay in power and make Trump look horrible when he comes into power.
Yeah. It's somebody that
that
cheats at the board game. Yeah, they can't win on their ideas, so instead they rig the board game by opening the borders, letting 30 million people here. We know a lot of them were registered to vote illegally. I don't think we've gotten to the bottom of that yet, but I think we'll see more coming out there. But yeah, you're exactly right. Biden was being puppeteered around. He wasn't the one really making the decisions. I do want executives to bring in experts because they're not going to know everything, but I want somebody that is a leader that can make those decisions. I think that's exactly what Trump does in the areas that he doesn't have as much knowledge about. He brings in the best people he can find that have a pro-American,
even if it's controversial, because they're going to come for him regardless. It doesn't matter what he does.
Exactly.
So just do it. Just do what you got to do.
Well, yeah, and I think that's also why we see like the media's reaction, because they're against everything Trump does, but the people are seeing the end results and positive outcome from these policies, and it's totally different. It's very easy. Trump's clearly making the vast majority of the decisions he's making are clearly in America's interest. Maybe we can nitpick on some here and there, but at the end of the day, we're already benefiting from it, and the real benefit from Trump's presidency hasn't even hit yet. This $15 trillion in new investment in our country, these peace agreements, which we're going to talk more about later, those benefit the entire world. Same with the tariff policy. It isn't just us that's going to benefit. We've greatly weakened China's control over Europe, South America, African nations that they were exploiting before. We've punched huge holes in their ability to essentially strong arm other countries around the world. And this has also helped create new jobs in Vietnam and India and other places that are U.S. allies, opposed to, the CCP that ultimately wants to destroy us and rule over the world.
Right. Let's go on to talking about Trump, the peacemaker. Okay. That's what we're going to call him, because he's putting out fires all over. Right. And he's setting this precedent where, even I talk about the African multilateral lunch that he had, where all these African leaders were around the table, and they themselves were saying, we see the model of the United States and how effective it has been in the first 6 months of your second term. And this is what we want for our nation. And they even in that meeting invited American business owners to come to their nation. They said it out of their own mouth. We invite you American business owners to come. We're rich in mineral, we're rich in this, we're rich in that. And they were just basically saying like how you can get involved with their nation to, basically better their nation and of course your pockets as well.
And let me interject one thing here real quick. Sorry to cut you off, but part of this was because how they're been exploited by China, especially for minerals, where China makes all these promises to them. They come in, they set up the mines, but then they fly in their own people. So no one that lives in Nigeria or the other countries that have a lot of these rare earth mineral mines, none of their own people benefit in any way. And instead, China's just lining their pockets. The government's getting some kickbacks, but it doesn't actually benefit the citizens in the country unless they need them to do a really dangerous job, which is killing a lot of their children, killing a lot of the people that get into it, because they're still having them do things like using like mercury to distill down some of these elements. And I think that's lithium. I'm sorry, guys, that I had that wrong. It might be cobalt. But yeah, they're lining their own pockets, and they're exploiting the people in Africa to do it. It's horrible. And Trump, again, is giving them an opportunity like, hey, we'll help you create these businesses. We'll train you. You guys can do this yourselves. It'll help us get the minerals we need, and it'll help them enrich themselves so they can, finally be a first world nation instead of a third world country.
I like what Charlie Kirk said in a recent podcast when he was with Michael Flynn, General Michael Flynn, Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, excuse me. He said, it's America first, not America only. And
Yeah.
it should be like that, right? Because we need each other. We can't just be isolated. We still have to trade with China. We still, even though he's making things right with the tariffs so that our businesses can flourish here, he's bringing manufacturing back so we can create more jobs. We can rely on ourselves because we saw the dangers of relying on our enemy when COVID hit and we needed insulin and other medication that we couldn't get because supply chains were down, and nations like India and China refused to trade with us because they had to protect their own people during that time. So they prioritize their own people. That's a given, right? But that showed us something. When it comes to these things like medication, etc., we have to start producing that here. Or when we have crises, we're going to be the one, even though we're the greatest nation in the world, our people are going to be gravely affected. And I love what Trump's doing there with that. But you see this recent thing that he had with a recent meeting he had with Armenia and Azerbaijan. Very interesting country, by the way. Azerbaijan, there's a peace deal that he made with them. He brokered with them. And if you I watched this whole thing live because, again, I don't really like listening to commentaries from news outlets on things. I like to hear them live. I don't mind it, but my preference is to hear it and interpret it for myself first. And then do the research for myself first. So, but these two men beside him, representing the different nations, they were grateful to Trump for having stepped in. They said that the previous administration really did nothing, and they had been going to war with each other for 35 years, and they have committed to this peace deal. They both said that they are very much committed, and they've been wanting to do this. It's just been they haven't found, I don't know, the workaround to be able to come to a peace treaty, a peace deal, and now they have one with Trump, and it seems very promising. And Trump has, said basically, like he said with Congo and Rwanda, that he is going to make sure that is instilled, because the issue is they would get to a peace deal or some type of agreement, maybe, and no one is holding him accountable. And so it starts to stir all things back up. And so Trump has committed to doing that with these nations. And he said, this is not necessarily America direct problem, right? But again, this is America first and not America only. So him putting these fires out of these nations, and he said over and over again, he wants to be known as a president of peace. Now, when I watch these cabinet meetings or etc., these meetings with the foreign leaders, when I watch these meetings live, he's given a lot of praise from these leaders for the things that he has done. It's they can see something that most Americans do not. And then their nation is very unique. They don't have the same freedoms as we do, but still we cry we don't have enough freedom, or we don't have freedom to do this, freedom to do that. We can't excel. They don't have the things that we do. And if you have not been outside of the United States in these different nations, you really just don't understand it unless you're actually doing the research and understanding what's taking place in those nations, which most of us aren't, because we're so fat here in America.
Yeah.
But I think go, you can go. I love what I'm seeing. I love that he's stepping in and being a peacemaker. It's something that he desires to do. And the rest of the world is taking notice.
Well, and let's keep in mind, too, this is the 6th peace deal now that Trump's brokered, and it sounds like Russia and Ukraine are finally going to be coming to the table next week, that Trump now has a private meeting with Putin next week to discuss terms, and then they're going to try to bring Zelensky in. I think Zelensky is worried about saving his own skin now that his approval ratings fallen to basically 0, and everybody in Ukraine wants this war over with. But yeah, this is something he talked about immensely coming up before he won the second election. I guess third election. But anyway, that this is something he wanted to make a cornerstone as bringing peace around the world. He just wants the fighting to stop. And like you said, like these are several multi-decade conflicts amongst these that he's brought peace to. And then it's also then two short-term conflicts between India and Pakistan and Thailand and Cambodia that, right after they started, he immediately got involved, threatened to cut off trade with both countries. They both, of course, and it was all four.
Works.
Yeah, they freak out because all of a sudden we're your number one trading partner or number one source for something, and we're just going to cut things off or go to 150% tariffs until you stop killing each other. That's going to not just wreck your economy, but that wrecks your nation's future. And with like Cambodia and Thailand, I think leadership in both countries really did want to come to the table. They wanted peace. This started on the border. They've had an ongoing conflict there. We don't need to get in all the details here, but they both leaders there, one country. India and Pakistan, that was a little bit more aggressive with both of them, but neither leader wanted nuclear war, and that was what was a possibility there because of both they're both nuclear states, and they both have policy that basically are tripwires. So if certain actions happen, they would automatically launch on each other. But this is huge. And again, Trump did this during his first term too, and people mock him for this I wouldn't even call them failures, but maybe a lack of full success, like with North and South Korea. But at least he tried. He did a lot more than every other president since the 1950s when the armistice was signed. At least there was an effort to make to bring him to the table. And now the two nations are talking. But yeah, this is a cornerstone of his presidency. And this is something that doesn't just benefit America. This benefits the entire world. And this is where I think a lot of this elitist class that's at our State Department, this is why they don't like him, because during his first term, they would tell him, oh, this is stupid. There can never be peace in this region. It doesn't matter how you get involved. Oh, the Abraham Accords, that's never going to work. These other Muslim nations in the Middle East, they're not going to sign any agreement. But he, at the very least, gives it a try. And again, there's not always a success. He didn't bring North and South Korea back together, but at least we got some steps forward. And with the Abraham Accords, I think if Biden hadn't been discouraging additional nations from signing on to that after Trump's first term ended, we would have had more countries across the Middle East sign that agreement. But even there, these were basic steps that were some unification. Israel's now recognized by several Arab nations, and these are steps in the right direction.
Now, you mentioned, Donald Trump, there's certain things that he couldn't conquer immediately. I remember him mentioning on his campaign trail that he would get the war with Russia and Ukraine ended in 24 hours, right? And we did see on his campaign trail that he reached out to Biden and tried to tried to hop in and assist since he had a better relationship with Putin than Biden did. And that was rejected by both Biden and Zelensky, right?
Well, there's even more.
He did not. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, there's even more to it there. Like after he won the election, before he was actually sworn in January, you had Keir Starmer's predecessor, I'm blanking on his name now, fly out there. Essentially, there was an effort by the EU to sabotage any possibility of peace there, and Zelensky went along with it because I'm sure they were whispering in his ear, oh, well, the U.S. might not be giving any more weapons or money, but we will. And remember, to get this budget agreement in December, right before Trump was sworn in, they threw in $1 gazillion in weapons for Ukraine again, and then forced Trump to complete that agreement because the way the executive has no power to stop this once Congress has done it and the president signed off on it. So that forced them to supply it. So this gave Zelensky a window to be a thorn in Trump's side, to pretend to make peace, pretend to make a mineral deal, then back out of it. The whole thing, I think their plan was to continue the fight and have this be egg on Trump's face so he couldn't accomplish something that in reality he should have been able to, the way the stage was set when he won the election. But I think there was a lot of European and warmongers here interference to try to prevent peace as long as possible.
Yeah, I think, he did try. You mentioned the future of nations. This was also going to be something that shaped their nations as well. And there was talks during that meeting with Armenia and Azerbaijan.
Azerbaijan.
Yeah,
I always do it backwards too.
Yeah, it's a beautiful name. I love it. But Azerbaijan, it that they were being invited to the AI movement that we're doing, that they'd be invited to so that their country could flourish, because they're more so on the impoverished side, especially after splitting from the Soviet Union. That's when this war kind of started, and the conflict continues to rise until this point. Till Trump kind of came in and said, "This is an end to it. We got to stop this. This is, and don't you guys want your nations to prosper?" And it seems like they both do. And I believe it was the leader of Azerbaijan who quoted a scripture. He said, and while he in that meeting, he said, "Blessed are the peacemakers." He quoted that scripture. And yeah, the one on the far right, uh, without the big beard. He he mentioned that, and they also both were like, "Can we sign the Nobel Peace Prize right now on behalf of Donald Trump, because we've been trying to do this for years, and people have said they would step in, but they haven't done it, and Biden really didn't do anything." And and now we have, and I believe that they see that Trump is a man of his word.
Yes.
And I love that too, because not only do we as Americans see that those that voted for him and stuff, that he's actually accomplishing the stuff he ran on and said he was going to do, and at the cost of injunctions and all that, overstep of their boundaries, judicial branch. But that the world sees it. When he told Iran, "You got this many days," that's what happened. Even
Yes.
even I don't know if you saw the whole thing on Twitter. Sorry to kind of just add this into it, but when the former prime minister, I believe it was of Russia, said not to make any empty threats, and it kind of hinted like, we'll go to war with the U.S. is what the news was saying. Donald Trump or posted that he was positioning those B-2 bombers.
Yeah, the
He was
nuclear
positioning
subs,
them,
and yeah.
nuclear subs, yeah, in right positions. He didn't say where they were. Like, he didn't tell us where they were for Iran. He didn't tell us when that was going to happen. He did give them a deadline. That was all we knew. And we saw the destruction of those nuclear facilities, right? So it's like when he says it, he means it. So
Yeah.
and he told Russia, "You got this many days," right? And then when that whole threat, he was like, in his tweet, he said, "Just in case these words aren't just that, we're positioned."
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then
Yeah.
hopefully Russia's come to the table. So hopefully we do get this war ended and it's done.
Yeah, a show of strength really means something, especially when you're dealing with strongman dictators, especially
Yeah.
again with Donald Trump, where they know if he says something now, he means it. I think they used to think he was some kind of unhinged cowboy madman that was just
Mm-hmm.
flying by the seat of his pants, when he was calling Kim Jong-un a rocket man and all this other stuff. They didn't know what he'd do, but now they know this guy's serious. He means business. And I've lost track of how many Nobel Peace Prize nominations he's had now just in the last 6 months. But I guarantee they won't give him a Nobel Peace Prize, unfortunately, because it's another corrupted institution. Sorry, we just lost your mic. But yeah, I'd like to see the Nobel Committee go back to their foundation and actually
Yeah.
give these prizes to real peacemakers or real people impacting a region. But it's been so politicized for 30 years that,
Mm.
yeah, it's unfortunate.
Sorry about that. Mic switching.
Now you're
Um,
fine.
Now the leader of Armenia he did say, he said this. He's like, "I don't understand how the past president," he's speaking of Obama, got even nominated for the Peace Prize. And we're like, what did he really do? So
Nothing.
it's like,
He
that's
hadn't
what
even
he
been.
said out of his own mouth. So
Yeah,
it
he was
wasn't,
he was nominated before he was even president. After he won the election, and they already gave him the Nobel Peace Prize before he was even sworn in.
it's wild when other leaders are saying that. I think we have to be careful. We have to watch for that. Other leaders are saying that across the world. Very interesting. Now,
Yeah.
we have our conflict that we're currently in right now, other than the Russia and Ukraine. We know that's going to be coming soon, and then hopefully we'll be able to report on that next week. Good. Hopefully, I'm praying for good news. Another
Yeah.
nation I'm praying for right now is Israel, because now we have Israel who has gotten approval from the cabinet that they can seize Gaza. And so, with the seizure of Gaza, what Benjamin Netanyahu has stated basically is that they don't want to occupy Gaza. They want to seize it. They want to get Hamas out of there, out of the leadership. They want to get their hostages home. And they also want to make sure they have control over the security of Gaza, because they don't want to be attacked anymore. Now, I do have a little clip of this. I guess we can play this clip first, and then and then let's dissect what's going on here. So we'll start that. This
I
one is
don't
from
think
this. Do we have
I
that
don't think
one?
we. No, let me look and make sure I didn't miss it real quick. But I
Okay,
didn't
it's okay if
see
you
that
have.
in your email.
So if you have, it's okay. This is from the Christian Broadcasting Network, where they kind of dive a little bit more deep into it. They pulled up some clips from Benjamin Netanyahu himself saying what he wants to do with the Gaza Strip, and so they're not going to occupy, which I mean, when you look at the history, they gave Gaza over, to the Palestinians. The Palestinians, majority of them, voted Hamas into power, knowing their rhetoric towards Israel. Hamas did not sugarcoat it. And now we see that Hamas is not so it doesn't seem like they're neither for their people, of course, definitely not for Israel, because their whole charter is death to Israel, is the destruction of Israel.
Yeah, from the river to
Um,
the sea.
yeah, that's their whole mantra. That is their goal. So nothing that you do will be able to I don't think there's going to be a peace treaty that works. And even though they've said that Hamas wanted to sign a peace treaty, I saw the prior prime minister of Israel say that Hamas wants peace. He stated that he's like, Hamas wants peace. That's what they want. They want to end the war, and Israel wants to end the war too. We should just give them that. And I'm like, dude, did you not read the entire statement of what they want in this peace deal? Because that's not the only thing. They did not only say we just want to enter the war. That's not what they just. That's not all that they want, and that's the reason why Benjamin Netanyahu has said no. Okay,
Yeah.
they want 30 Palestinian prisoners, criminals, okay, they were in prison for the heinous crimes they committed, to be released per one hostage. Why is that?
Oh, that
Why is that?
seems fair.
Why is that there? Yeah. They also want to make Jerusalem their capital, right? So they have other demands on top of just ending the war. Okay.
Well,
Uh,
they're not going to take it anyway. I do have your video queued. I do have the video queued up now, but they're not going to take it anyway. I mean, remember in the late '90s, and when Clinton was trying to negotiate with Arafat, they literally offered them everything they wanted. Israel met all their demands, and Arafat still rejected the two-state solution or whatever it was supposed to be at the time. They don't. The only reason they want peace right now is because they're getting their butts kicked. This is always what they do. They pretend to be weak once they start to lose, but as soon as they're strong again, they'll attack the innocent. They'll attack Israel. They can't be trusted. I mean, that's the
mhm.
bottom
They
line.
cannot. No, they definitely cannot. And I think I'm really glad. I'm very grateful for the stance that Bibi Netanyahu. I'm not saying that he's a wholly righteous man. None of them are. None of us are. But I think the stance he's making for Gaza, again, to seize it has to be done.
Yeah.
You have to get Hamas out of there. They can't control this anymore. This is a militant group. And I love what Bibi Netanyahu said. He said, instead of them building, when they had the money and to do everything, instead of them building Gaza up, they built in the ground. They established tunnels in the ground. Why? Because they had one agenda. Okay. And that's
Well,
even at the expense of their own people.
well,
So,
remember, they were turning water pipes that were sent there by through UNICEF or no USAID. We sent them water pipes, and they turned those into rockets. That was what we saw being launched after the October 7th attacks, were drainage pipes and other steel pipes. We'd sent them so they could build infrastructure, get clean water and sewage into a lot of their housing, their structures, the ones that are, they're suffering all the time and can't get enough food. Instead, they're turning those into weapons. So, again, not someone we can deal with. They don't
yeah.
care about their own people. They'll exploit them every way they can.
Yeah. And I think the Palestinians are waking up to that, because Bibi Netanyahu, we had a Fox News reporter that went to Gaza to kind of report and give, an honest what was happening. And I like the approach he took. It wasn't like he was for Benjamin. He asked Benjamin Netanyahu some real hard questions in that interview. I thought Benjamin Netanyahu actually handled it pretty well, because he gave straight out facts. And the guy that went there, I cannot remember his name. He's a Fox News anchor. He went to Gaza and he said, we did see, that Palestinians were starving. We did see that there were a ton of buildings destroyed. We did see that Hamas was stealing things, and we saw this, of them reselling it for way more than it should be. We saw all of this, right? And then finally now we have, some reports coming through that some of the reports showing of children starving were inflated. They weren't even true. They didn't cover the whole. They're biased. They're
Of
half truths.
course.
Like I've been saying in all my socials.
Imagine that.
Yeah, they give you half truths. It's like it looks like it is because that's what they feed you. They're giving you. And because we're not in God, we don't even understand that side of the world. Because we have a whole different method of governing here. Um, but how they think, what they do to and basically inflate this whole situation and tell you half truths. I mean, when you think about the fact that Hamas even suppresses the information that comes out of there, it's been reported. It is evidence of this that they also manipulate casualty data. Okay, like, and that's what is being fed to our media, who's reporting this without even doing the research.
Of course not.
So you have to take all those things into account. And now finally they release footage on hostages, and the hostages looks worse than the Palestinians.
Oh.
And the Palestinians are the ones the Israelites are able to feed. Hamas isn't giving them any food.
Well, I mean, when the U.S. when Trump ordered that food sent there a few weeks ago, afterwards, then they were able to deliver it right to the people. Hamas was not about to stand in the way there and to make their situation 10 times worse by pissing off Trump.
Yeah.
They went afterwards to a lot of the Palestinians that took that food and they cut their hands off for taking aid direct from the United States. I guess U.S. Israel. I'm sure it was a joint operation. I can't quite remember the details now. But yeah, they went back and murdered and chopped limbs off a lot of the people that got food because that made Hamas look bad.
Mm-hmm. There's a woman, Sarah. We'll get to playing this clip right after this, but there's a woman, Sarah. I think her name is Awaida, Awaida. She had an organization that fed over 100,000 families in Gaza, and now her life is threatened by Hamas.
Of course.
And she's hiding in Israel because they didn't want her feeding. And she said what she saw was that Hamas didn't like the fact that these people, that she found a different route, a hidden route to get these people aid and food that were in dire need. And they didn't like that. So they threatened to kill her. And then she said that not only was Hamas stealing the food and then reselling it to their own people for higher prices so they could stay in power and get weapons and stuff that they need, but also there were private sector businesses that were doing the same. So and this stuff is coming out. It's like you had a half truth told to you the whole time, and a lot of people are like, "Oh, the poor Palestinians." There's no denying that they're suffering there. Okay, but we can't look at it at one angle and only be for one sort of people when you have to understand the reason why this whole thing even continues is Hamas refuses to give up hostages that they stole. They started a war that they can't finish. And instead of them caring enough for their people to end it, they would rather them suffer so that they could get what they want.
Yeah, and I do think more of the people in Gaza and more of the Palestinians are starting to wake up to this reality. But the other, unfortunate problem that does need to be addressed is, this is who the Palestinians wanted in power, and they still had popular support at 65%. The last time people checked more recently, now I doubt it's that high with as bad as things have gotten now, but despite all this suffering, they still think Hamas is in the right. And this is because they're brainwashed from an early age. And I mean, it's horrible that it's gotten to the way it is now. But when you have people like that are so dedicated to this idea and so filled with hatred, you can't negotiate.
I got one more question to ask you before we move on to the video, because I want them to see a little bit of clip of the video. But there was a report going around that Bibi Netanyahu knew about the attack of October 7th and then didn't do anything about it. Can you expound on that?
Yeah, and I've heard a few different things here, but basically my interpretation is they obviously get chatter and other intelligence sources all the time with people associated with all these Islamic terror groups making various threats. Same thing happened to us on 9/11. There's people that say, oh, we were warned about it ahead of time. And yeah, that's technically true that we intercepted chatter, but we intercept thousands of things like this every single day. And most of them aren't true. Most of them are either people just talking, having disgusting fantasies about, killing Americans or killing the Jews or whatever. So you don't necessarily know what pieces of these are actionable intelligence or what are just somebody running their mouth. So I've heard a few different theories on this and there's probably more than that out there, but one that they had intercepted something about the paragliders being moved into storage near a field where they were launched from. I want to say it was like a soccer field. But again, that's your intel. How do you act on that? And another one was conversation between some of these jihadis that they weren't aware Israel was able to listen in on, talking about an upcoming attack on October 7th, but not giving any kind of details that would have allowed prevention. That's the other thing people have to understand. Even if we know that XYZ, Islamic Jihad or Hamas or whoever is planning an attack on a certain date, if we don't have any details on that or know what the targets are even, then it's not actionable intelligence. We can just be prepared for something inbound, but that doesn't mean we can stop it.
Yeah, I agree. And I looked at some reports too to kind of verify that. And exactly what you said is what I read. It's really hard to pinpoint to say that they did know about it. Maybe they got some intel about it, but weren't sure. You can't, if they were to if they were to act on that, or gone in and done some military action, that would have still been scrutinized by the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And so
and
I think it's a fine line.
I don't believe for a minute that they intentionally let this attack happen as an excuse to go level Gaza. I think if they had even enough information to just put, say, defensive systems in place, like if, for example, they knew there was going to be paragliders flying into their country over the border. I can't think of the town that they flew into first where that concert was, but they would have at the very least positioned, anti-aircraft, machine guns, had, even if it was just IDF soldiers on the ground prepared to shoot down these paragliders, they would have done it. But they didn't have actionable intelligence. I don't believe for a minute that there was some kind of scheme behind the scene. And again, I've got plenty of critiques and criticism of Netanyahu. This now isn't the time for that. But I don't for a minute believe he would allow something like this to happen if they had actionable intelligence. I think they probably saw this chatter, and somebody might have been like, well, this is bad, but I don't know what's coming. I don't know where to position any assets. I don't have any idea how to intercept this. So what do? You hope for the best. And, there's legitimate criticisms of the initial response, especially from some of the police and other people that were on the ground. And, I think they've retooled and changed things. You and I talked off air. I've got a friend that's involved with air defense systems from our military that he's gone there numerous times to help set up components of Iron Dome. They had some other failures in that system that they just weren't aware of. They weren't maintaining things properly. And all that together made for a horrific attack on Israel. Some of the stuff could have been prevented, but again, not all of it. Some of the some of the response stuff could have been prevented and handled better. Now they know, but I don't think there was any way that they could have prevented this attack given the intel that they had.
Well, the major issue still falls on the fact that Hamas already had a strategy to do this in the first place. Like they were still going to do it,
Yeah.
So if you had the intel, the fact is there is a hostile militant group against you that will plan and would do it again if they had the opportunity to. So they have to be stopped regardless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no other way to look at it. That right now they're the current threat, but look at all the other Islamic terror groups that they've dealt with over the years, from the PLO to whoever else. It's an endless stream of jihadis.
Let's play this clip.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu explained Israel's goals for the new action.
We want to liberate ourselves and liberate the people of Gaza from the awful terror of Hamas.
The phased plan includes disarming Hamas, returning all hostages, demilitarizing the Gaza Strip, Israeli security control in Gaza, and creating a civilian government that is neither Hamas nor the Palestinian Authority. Netanyahu telling Fox News Israel doesn't want to be in charge of Gaza.
We don't want to be there as a governing body. We want to hand it over to Arab forces that will govern it properly without threatening us and giving Gazans a good life. That's not possible with Hamas.
Netanyahu says Israel and the U.S. agree on certain principles for a post-Hamas Gaza, including non-Israeli civil control. President Trump says he will collaborate with Israel to run additional food distribution centers.
But that's what I'm focused on. As far as the rest of it, I really can't say. That's going to be pretty much up to Israel.
As a group of demonstrators outside the minister's office chained themselves together in protest, the Israeli Defense Forces warned the plan could put the lives of remaining hostages at risk.
Israel does, in fact, run a huge risk by taking the military action that they've planned in order to end Hamas and save hostages. But what choice do they have?
I think with a combination of the right military tactics and international pressure, we can get all of them, and certainly most of them, out.
The plan is meeting with resistance from the United Kingdom, the British ambassador calling it a huge mistake. Some fear the Gaza takeover plan could spark a new wave of anti-Semitism. This Paris office of Israeli airline El Al was vandalized Thursday. And there's the ongoing battle over media coverage of Israel and the war. Netanyahu telling Fox News that he's looking into whether a country can sue the New York Times for this misleading front page article. It portrayed an emaciated child as evidence of starvation in Gaza, when he was actually ill from a medical condition. And there's this recent post showing video of Palestinians begging on the left and the same people in a car appearing to rehearse their roles on the right, as a member of the Palestinian press directs them as he drives. The Prime Minister.
So this is interesting. Now we got more intel on how things are done there. You know, the inflating of the news to put articles out without fully vetting it. That's dangerous because you manipulate the entire American public to believe this and get behind it, and it's not fully true.
Yeah, nobody ever sees the retraction when they print it on page 17 a week later, but you've already seen the propaganda and the damage has already been done. And there's a lot of falsified scripted videos like this. There's also them using old footage from something that happened years ago or in an entirely different country, something maybe from Iraq or Afghanistan or wherever else where there's injuries, civilian casualties after an operation, which, you know, again, unfortunately, when you're dealing with some of these monsters, there is going to be collateral damage. And they love their human shield, so a lot of times they'll take up, they'll put their headquarters in a mosque or a school or whatever, and then they'll force civilians in there. So that after something's done, all of a sudden there's 120 casualties that didn't need to be there. And if there was any other sane country, they'd keep their civilians away from there. It would only be military fighters. They'd follow the normal rules of engagement, but they don't.
No, you can't. We can't do normal rules of engagement with a militant group. It's just.
No,
that's not how it works.
No, not when they rely on terrorism. They dress like civilians. They'll pop out with, I guess all our weapons we left in Afghanistan now.
Underground.
Yeah. And now they've got a bunch of equipment too they're utilizing that Biden left in Afghanistan, but let's not even bring that into this.
Gosh.
Our M4s and other things that were left there. But you're not dealing with a remotely honest opponent here. They have their hooks into our media. They buy this story. Israel's a colonizer, and they're going to support the Palestinians no matter what happens.
Now we're going to take a break to share about one of our sponsors, and then when we come back, we'll talk about Israel. We'll talk about Letitia James, Judge Boasberg, and some other funny things happening in the media. Parrot that speaks a story that leads our FBI agents to discover and break down an entire investigation. But our sponsor today is Augusta Precious Metals. They are a U.S.-based company founded in 2012 that specializes exclusively in gold and silver IRAs. They help retirement savers diversify by rolling over traditional IRAs and 401ks into precious metals. And this company stands out for one big reason. It's their ethics and their customer service, which I'm telling you guys is up to par. They've been named Money Magazine's best overall gold IRA company 3 years in a row, 2022 to 2024. And Investopedia calls them the most transparent pricing company. And that says a lot in the type of industry that we live in today. Augusta is A+ rated with the BBB, AAA with the Business Consumer Alliance, and they've got over 1,000 satisfied customer reviews. They also offer something rare, which I love this about this company. It's the highest buyback guarantee. So if you ever want to sell back your gold to them, you can do that with a peace of mind. They also have zero setup, custodian, or storage fees for up to 10 years. Everyone qualifies for that. And there's also a 7-day money back guarantee when you open your account. So that would give you time to decide. There's no pressure for you to make a decision. One thing that I also love about Augusta is that they don't have representatives on hand who get a commission when you sign up or when you do certain things with your 401k or Roth IRA through them. So because of that, they're big on just educating you. This helps you actually avoid common traps that we see in this industry, and also the misinformation that some companies use. So they keep you in charge of your investment. You get to complete control of that. They don't push anything on you. You get to choose your own gold and your silver products. So if you're looking for a long-term, honest support for your retirement investment, Augusta Precious Metals, they really deliver, and I highly recommend them. You can just check out a pamphlet if you like, of their what they stand for, just to get a little bit more information on them. And then if you want to reach out and talk with them about it, how it could work for you, they're open for that. Their customer service is amazing. You should see their link in the description if you're on Facebook, YouTube, if in and on Rumble. You should see the description of Augusta Precious Metal, where you can click on the link and you can get more information from them, and see if that will work for you if you want to turn your retirement savings in to gold and silver IRAs. They kind of remind me of the difference that you get with a company like CarMax versus, or say, Automax, for example, where it's just straight up what it is, and they give you that, and that's just it. I bring them up because we recently just sold our car, and there was a big difference in the customer service between these two companies, where CarMax said, this is what we want to offer you. If you come, this is it. And when we came there, that is what they offer us. They took our car on the spot. Whereas the other company was kind of like, oh, this is what we want to offer you. We've seen everything. We've done the Kelly Blue Book. You come and we'll offer you this. And then all of a sudden they're like, no, we're sorry. We don't want to do it again. And it's like, why'd you waste my time? So yeah, so I love that, Augusta Precious Metals, they're not about wasting your time. They are serious about educating and making sure you're in the driver's seat, so you make an informed decision that you could be proud of and that you can stick with. So yeah, if you want to check them out, guys, there should be a link there for you to check them out, AugustaPreciousMetal.com. Okay, Letitia James, I think we have a clip for that.
Yes, let's run this.
So I'm covered by the blood, and I'm not afraid of Donald Trump. You can come after me, but no enemy, nothing formed against me will perish. Nothing formed against me. Nothing formed against me. Nothing formed against me.
All right. I got off my face.
And you thought you could preach, huh?
This is the second time I've seen a Democrat member quote scripture and do so incorrectly and to their own detriment. So the scripture that she was actually referring to is Isaiah 54:17, and she used the New King James Version, which says, no weapon formed against you shall prosper. But instead she said, no weapon formed against me shall perish, which is saying the complete opposite of divine protection, the complete opposite of speaking life over yourself. She is speaking death over herself spiritually, and basically saying everything coming my way, everything meant to take me out, everything meant to put me under, it's going to come and it's going to prosper. And I'm not sure she even realized she did that. And I'm looking at Al Sharpton and the man that's sitting next to her, and I'm like, step up, say something. I mean, I don't support the Democrat Party and I don't support them, but at least if you're going to have your counterpart there, the people that you're supporting, like, step up, protect them. As a reverend, you should understand the power of scripture and the power of the word of God and speaking over yourself. So I'm not sure why he didn't step in. Al Sharpton could have easily, he had the podium, he could have easily said something that did not at all embarrass her. He could have said, yes, no weapon formed against us shall prosper. He could have easily stepped into that role, corrected the sentiment that was put out in the air and over her and cover her. But I didn't see that at all in this clip. And instead, he just said that was some fine preaching. So I'm not sure if they were unfamiliar with that scripture or if they just weren't paying attention, but the word of God tells us that life and death lies in the power of the tongue. And so she is literally speaking negative things to happen in her life and that they will succeed, which is the complete opposite of what that scripture is supposed to be intended for. And now we see a case against her with the FHFA, which the DOJ has not necessarily brought any charges yet. They are reviewing it, but there is strong evidence against her for fraud. It doesn't look really at all in her favor. 30 years in prison plus $1 million fine, and also removal from her position. So this is a very serious thing. The ironic thing is these are the similar charges that she brought against Donald Trump that she's now facing. So I'm going to follow this case closely to see what actually takes place.
Well said.
Very interesting stuff, because right now, the U.S. Department of Justice has convened a federal grand jury in Albany and issued subpoenas related to her civil fraud lawsuit against Donald Trump. Probes are examining whether she violated Trump's civil rights in pursuing that case. Her case against the National Rifle Association is also being scrutinized under similar allegations. And we got the mortgage fraud referral thing, which they're investigating right now on whether she misinterpreted facts to obtain favorable loans, possibly by claiming a property in Virginia as her primary residence. And then also the fact that she falsified information stating that her father was her husband. So, this is currently go ahead.
What is it with Democrats marrying relatives? Her, Ilhan Omar, and AOC's being investigated right now for putting her, now former fiance, down as her husband to get free Met Gala tickets.
Oh my God. Now, I feel like I could maybe understand Ilhan Omar's. Maybe she did it for her brother to be a citizen. I don't know. But Letitia James, you were in America,
Yeah.
so there's no other excuse if you are convicted of that you just did that for favorability on your finances and, mortgage favorability. So it's yeah.
I wonder if she's divorced her father yet. But they've got Ed Martin on this case. He's a pit bull. He's going to be going after Letitia James and Adam Schiff. So I'm sure these guys are hiring their attorneys as we speak.
And this was given to Attorney General Pam Bondi by, I believe, that mortgage company. So this wasn't something that the Trump administration, necessarily manufactured. Just like they looked to her records and saw these falsified claims. And again, like I mentioned earlier, it seems like a strategy of the Democrat, as you see this taking place over and over again, accuse the other side of what you are doing. Because when you think about the Russiagate thing too, that Hillary Clinton had hired that company to do the investigative work, etc. And there was supposed to be a whole thing released during her campaign or whatever. And then it was later on used against Trump.
Yeah.
So,
and she laundered it through a law firm so that they could initially say, oh, well, no, this didn't come from his political opponent. I mean, that whole sham is getting exposed now. But again, the level of fraud that's perpetrated on the American people, that our media just goes along with knowingly, that they refuse to ask questions, they refuse to provide context. If it benefits the left or the uniparty, but the minute Trump says something, they're always hypercritical of it. Yeah.
And now we have, I also want to mention, just for the sake of time, we can move on to the next one, which is Judge Boasberg. This whole issue with him and overstepping his judicial,
authority.
Power.
Yeah.
Authority. So this is another interesting story where we have the Supreme Court ruling on behalf of Trump and, basically siding with him when it came to this issue.
Yeah, and Boasberg, I mean, this whole thing with all these judges and injunctions, the vast majority of them should never have taken place to begin with. But that's, when the left gets mad, they'll manipulate the law. They've all these activist justices all over the country that will then intercede on their behalf. And a lot of times, again, the process is the punishment when they're going after an individual. In this case, they're targeting the federal government, which, has an essentially unlimited wallet. But the idea is just to slow down actions that Trump and his administration are taking that they already know are lawful. I mean, the problem is, all this going through the courts takes up so much time. It takes up tons of money, and it ends up going up to the Supreme Court. They cherry pick judges. They know will give them a decision they want, and they've tried to pick judges where the appeals court is also going to go along with them for purely political reasons. But yeah, Boasberg just got slapped back again on not allowing Trump to continue with mass deportations, despite this last Supreme Court decision. He apparently decided, SCOTUS's decision just doesn't apply to my case. It's disgusting, and there should be repercussions for these judges. Hopefully, more people in the House and the Senate, more conservatives, find their courage, I'll just say, and finally step in and do something about this.
Yeah. I'm glad that we have I'm really glad that the Senate is doing a great job when it comes to these rulings, I feel. Um, when especially since you have, I think Trump has taken on more injunctions than any other president.
Than all
It's
previous
just a hold
presidents
up. Oh,
combined, actually.
oh,
And
yeah,
it's only
well,
been
I
8
misspoke.
months.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild. So kudos to him for that ruling to continue to move forward with what he wanted to do, because I believe, if we remember correctly, like he had a 14-day thing on Trump where he wanted him to bring back migrants
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah, he's had several of these. He's the one that wanted them to return some of the people that were sent down to CCOT, including our favorite Maryland father.
Hmm.
Um, uh,
Abrego Garcia.
yes. Yeah, but none of these injunctions hold water. Um, the other thing that the Supreme Court pointed out, that a lot of these should normally, if they wanted to pursue it legally, which they don't really want to pursue it legally, what they want to do is just create problems, they would get them certified as a class, and this should be a class action lawsuit. So these nationwide injunctions, the first one that occurred was back in the 1960s, but that was before this class action process was in place the way it is today. So the judge that did the nationwide, and I can't remember what the case was over now, but there wasn't a process for what they wanted to accomplish at the time, so that's why the nationwide injunction was issued. There are very few from these federal courts from there until more recently, and then they have gotten trigger happy with it. And unfortunately, like, there are a few examples of our side doing the same thing to Obama, I think a couple to Clinton, and then to Biden. But this is not how our system is designed. This is manipulating it for political means. Like you said, it's unfortunate. I'm glad the Supreme Court has stepped in and sided with Trump on the majority of these issues.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just don't know what it's going to take to get these courts under control, unless Congress just has to eliminate the positions, and then we can reopen a different court and appoint it with people that will actually respect the Constitution.
Yeah. Now, we have other news about this parrot in the UK. You want to
Oh,
go in
yeah.
on
Let me pull this up real quick. Like, when I saw this, like, this sounds like the plot to like a bad comedy, or at the very least a cheesy comedy. But let me give you the rundown on this. I'll read the headline first. Let me pull this up so I can actually read it. Sorry, everything on my screen's like micro-sized. Drug dealers talking parrot helps police nail entire drug ring. So this occurred over in the UK. I guess this guy was arrested. They knew he was involved with other people, and other dealers that worked for him. I think he was like along the lines of being like a distributor. They didn't get specific in the article, but he wasn't going to give up any names. They didn't have the evidence they needed to bring in other people, but apparently the bird knew, and the bird was willing to talk. So I don't know if they gave the parrot a lawyer or not, but they did interrogate him, or maybe he gave up all the information willingly. They bribed him with crackers or whatever. But I guess the parrot named all the other dealers involved, or from things the parrot was repeating, they were able to identify them, get warrants, and then go make arrests. So I don't know if the parrot was like, Bob needs 2 kilos, rah, or whatever. And then that was enough for them to track down who it was, tie Bob to whoever the dealer was that was arrested. And then my other question is, will the parrot have to testify?
This is hilarious. This is the funniest case I've ever heard of. And
Yeah.
the fact that it was with the parrot, it was so accurate that they actually ended up finding the people. This is wild.
Yeah, I mean, again, like, I wouldn't believe this. This literally sounds like it could be a plot to some like cheesy movie I would have watched like late night on Comedy Central 10 years ago. But apparently, this is the reality. This is what's actually happened with London's police department. So maybe they're not enforcing all the other laws, and they're going after people for Facebook's posts. But hey, I'll give them props on this one for creativity, for turning the parrot into a witness and breaking the case to arrest all these other drug dealers around London.
It's wild. It's wild. Well, guys, before we close out today, I do want to encourage you guys to make sure you get out and vote during the midterms. We've seen statistically, we've seen like the lower, turnout when it comes to people voting. But this actually is super important because, your local voting actually determines the national. And we've made such great movement with Donald Trump being in office. I mean, in terms of parental control in our school systems and things like that. That if we don't continue to move those things forward, they could easily be receded from just the people that are elected, because we're not showing up to those elections to put people in the positions that they should be in. So in your state, wherever you are, I want to encourage you to make sure you turn out for those midterm elections in your local, in your area, because it's going to make a major difference. Okay. I encourage all of us to do that. My state here in South Carolina, if you're watching from South Carolina, let's know who we're going to be voting for. Let's know the people running so that we can put the people in office. We've gotten major wins under Trump. Just in the short time he's been in his second term, and we want to keep that momentum going. So I encourage you guys to make sure you do that. You can find me on all socials, guys. If you can pull up that last slide here, this is where you can find me, guys. TikTok, X, and YouTube at Aisha Speaks Truth. Facebook, it's at Aisha Schreiner. Amazon, my Amazon storefront's Aisha Schreiner as well. If you are new watching, I got my background is beauty and fashion, and then I'm super excited to be a part of X American News, to be able to launch into the political arena and step here and use my platform as a Christian conservative. But yeah, so this is where you can find me. So most of my platforms start with Aisha Schreiner, because again, that's how I started, with the beauty and fashion. And then Aisha Speaks Truth is the politics. Okay. Mike, if you can go ahead and share about where you could be found. They want to see the insurrection, your podcast as well.
Yeah. Well, and I want to also thank you for being a part of the team here at X American News. I think you really bring a lot to the table. I know you're kind of early in this branch of your career, but you're going to go places. You'll be a nationally known name before you know it. But yeah, you guys can find me here on X American News every morning, Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to noon, on the insurrection, where we dig into the latest news of the day and stories, ridiculous stories, like the parrot stool pigeon.
Cool stories.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, Mike, thank you so much for being with me today. I really appreciate that. I appreciate your commentary and everything. Guys, I hope this brought a lot of information to you, a lot of things for you to dive into, to look through, and encourages you as well to get out during those midterm elections and vote. And I will see you guys next week, Thursday, 2 to 3 p.m. ET. Till then, be in prayer, stay alert,